Greetings and happy Halloween. It is I, Archmage Feng. Imagine a world of darkness, a world of the supernatural. Imagine the supernatural exists. Well, tonight, I'm going to delve deep. I'm going to do a review on Vampire. Greetings. Time for my book review, and this time I'm going to talk about WOD Vampire. WOD Vampire is an old game that came out in the 90s. It started with Vampire the Masquerade, which started the modern nights of Vampire, but also comes in the format for Dark Ages. Now I know you'll be asking, well, what is Vampire? Vampire was a game created by White Wolf. It's a personal favourite of mine, and everybody should check it out. I mean, it's got a buzz now with Bloodlines 2 coming out, and the new book coming out, in my collection trove. But I'm going to turn it back a bit and go old school with these ones. Now, imagine a world like ours, but it's very gothic, you know, churches looming, spire and stuff like that. Corporations are greedy, that type of thing. Imagine the villain. Basically gothic punk is the best way to describe it. But what is it all about? Well, in the beginning, when Cain slew Abel, God cursed him and cursed him with vampirism. He then set about creating other vampires via the Embrace, and then they created 13, which then became the clans. These clans are essentially your classes, from the rebellious Bruja to the animalistic nomadic Gangrel, the hideous information gathering Nosferatu, the crazy Malkavians, the fashion Toreadors, business venture, and so on and so forth. I love this game to death. I'm not going to lie. Definitely one of my favourites. No stat rolling, point by system, and you build a vampire. And the goal of the vampire is basically you're struggling with your humanity. You're struggling to keep a fraction of what you once were. As you delve further and further into the night, you live forever, more or less, and you try to fight back the beast. The beast is a creature. Is basically the vampire's true essence. They basically are snarling, uncontrollable psychopathic creatures that will do anything to feed. And they keep the beast in trim by clinging to their humanity and basically feeding to keep themselves full. The main thing with Vampire is it's a political game. It's a political role-playing game. It's not your run into a dungeon, hit things with a sword. Basically, the GM, or in this case the storyteller, sets the scene, and then the vampire, and then the players playing the vampires will act out within that scene. To basically put a bit of story perspective, the vampires basically stay hidden. They do not show themselves to the mortal world. They keep themselves hidden by a thing called the Masquerade, and there's lots of other rules as well that they follow. Person in charge is called a prince, and then they filters down like a feudal system, even in the modern knights. You have basically 3 different groups, although 2 in the new one, but originally 3. It was the Camarilla, who are your traditional keep the monster sheep. Don't let yourself be found out as the wolf, and basically feed and bottom basically stay in the shadows and stay side by side with humanity. The counter culture to that is the Sabbat, who believe in, you know, mortals are animals and we are superior, therefore we should dominate them. And then you've got the Anarchs, who are very, we don't like the Camarilla because of all the stuff he rules, so Sodom, we're going to rebel. I can't promote this game enough, I really can't. It is terrific, there's so much stuff in here. I said you get different clans. What separates the clans, not only their ideals, like Bruja being rebels and such, but they also get these disciplines, which is their vampiric powers. And these powers can range from turning invisible to turning into animals, controlling animals, stronger, faster, more hardy. They can dominate, control minds. They can pass their madness on to others, which is a Malkavian trait. It's hilarious. Malkavian's my favourite clan, by the way. You've got the Tremere in here, who use their blood to cast spells. We've basically got people who control shadows, people turn to snakes, people do flesh crafting and basically craft like horrible ghoulic creatures. Ghouls are basically humans that have been fed vampire blood. You see, because to create a vampire in this game, you drain the victim of their blood and then you give them some of your own and it turns them into a vampire of your clan. If you don't do the draining process and just give them blood, they become a ghoul. And ghouls are basically, well, servants. The best way for it. And there's a clan called the Zimitsi who believe in basically taking these ghouls and crafting them to look hideous and horrible to go and cause trouble. There's even a clan here that's necromancy, raising the dead. Some Ravnos that create illusions. Yeah, I mean, so many clans to pick from. I usually just tend to the Camarilla 7 because that makes running a game a lot easier. And there's still plenty to pick from even the 7. You basically, yeah, it's basically, for example, and yeah, you basically just, the storyteller sets the scene, and the characters then act out that scene. They play it out. For example, they might say, right, it's a snowy night, very few bodies, what are you going to do? The character might say, well, I'm going to feed, and then they'll act out how they're going to feed. The storyteller will then set the scene for them feeding. It's basically a simple system. It's a D10 system. It is a dice pool. So, for example, if you let's go back to feeding, I'll probably say, right, you're going to tackle them to feed. That'll be a dexterity and brawl. You've got 3 dexterity, you've got 3 brawl, you roll 6 dice. I will then say the difficulty is 6, which means every time you roll over, and the dice go over 6 counts as a success. So say you roll 2, 2, 3, 6, 7, 8. Well, that'll be 3 over 6, that's 3 successes, so you've done quite well. However, I might say, okay, but because it's slippery and you can't see very well, I'm going to make the difficulty an 8. And that's basically how it works. The more success you can, there's a thing called willpower, which allows vampires to fight faith, because crosses don't work on a vampire in this game unless the wielder has faith in the object. And even then, as they're holding them back with a cross, the vampire can use willpower to sort of walk forward. It's also used to stop going into frenzy. Frenzy is when the beast takes over and you basically just become a psychopathic killing machine, uncontrollable. So it allows you to go, allows you to fight that. It also, like I said, you can go into frenzy through lack of blood, too much damage, or seeing the sun, or fire. Fire is deadly to a vampire. The Hollywood cliches of stuff like garlic and running water don't work. And even a stake to the heart will just paralyse them, it won't kill them. To kill them, you have to chop their heads off or burn them alive, or set fire to their bodies, or the sun. Willpower also allows you to get a moderate pass, so you can say, oh, we're just going to spend willpower to negate the rolls for this scene, and then just describe it from there. You then build it around the thing called the story. So obviously each scene builds up into the story, and then each story then builds up into a big chronicle. It's basically like an adventure that leads into a campaign of Dungeons and Dragons. It's the same concept, except obviously there's a lot more role-playing, acting, and storytelling in Vampire. There's not as much running around with swords and fighting people. It's more, like I say, political and role-playing, and because obviously when you create a character, you start off as what's known as a neonate, which is the lowest of the bottom of the rung, and then you go to Ancillary, which is like the next level up. Then finally the Elder, which are like vampires that live for thousands of years and are super powerful. So obviously, you being the neonate, you're the Elder's boot boy, and they say jump, you ask how high. I could go on about this forever, and I'll talk about the Camarilla for a bit. The Camarilla, like I said, ruled by a prince, and they have a primogent and a seneschal. The seneschal is sort of like a consigliere in the mafia. They deal with the laws and make sure the prince isn't being too overbearing and causing too much damage to society. You also got a primogent who is made up of the seven clans of the Camarilla, who basically vote, and they're sort of like a mini parliament. Best way to think about it is sort of like the prince being the royalty, and then you have the parliament and they, vote and vetoes and it's political stuff. So as neonates, you're basically, there's a couple of mortals doing something, go sort it out, and you basically go off and go sort it out. I mean, that's like turn it down to its base form, but you embellish it and you tell a story basically, and then it is more storytelling. Great game. Things about the Masquerade is, I like it. I prefer Dark Ages, I'm not gonna lie. Masquerade is fun. I do like it. I just prefer Dark Ages. I think it's a lot more good. It's a lot more if you know your history. If you know your history, you can change it a bit. But I prefer it. I just prefer, because I'm a historian as a hobby. Go through history. It's not saying that you can't take the Masquerade and set it in World War II or in the 17th century. But I prefer Dark Ages because that does have a bit more sword swinging and stuff like that, because obviously it was that time. There wasn't cameras everywhere and stuff like that, so it's basically just walking with his stabs on. But yeah, it's things with Dark Ages, camera doesn't exist, so it's a lot more free with the clans mingling with each other. Plus, of course, everybody has faith as well, so it's a lot more difficult to just kill mortals. Masquerade again is a great game. I'm not saying it's rubbish, it's just everyone wants to carry a gun, and guns do, well, nothing really against vampires. They just shrug it off. Sword on the other hand is a bit different, but yeah, because if you look at the character sheet, I'll try to show it to you. If I can't get it, I'll edit it. But there's your character sheet. If you look at the bottom there with my fingers up, sorry, you've got the health chart. Now with the health chart, there's 3 types of damage. There's bashing, which is clubs, guns, fists, stuff like that. Half damage to vampires because they're dead, so you can't really bruise the flesh anymore, and they're sort of been bruised. They've got lethal damage, which is like knives, sharp weapons, stuff like that. Also, shooting them in the head is classed as lethal as well, so you can get a shotgun and blow the head off. That works. That'll kill them. Yeah, and then you've got aggravated, which is being attacked by a holy symbol with some of faith, the sun. Other supernatural creatures can also do aggravated damage, so werewolves can do aggravated damage to vampires. Vampires can do it as well, because they can just bite the werewolf and it will be classed as aggravated damage. Werewolf I'll cover another time. But it is basically surviving the city or medieval town if playing Dark Ages, and live out your nights, playing games of politics, trying to climb the ladder, and yeah, surviving with your humanity intact is basically the name of the game. I'm not going to say it's for everybody, because it isn't. There's a lot of taboo subjects in this, because it is, well, vampire. It's more, there's like sexual nature in it, murders, violence, drugs, even taboo subjects such as rape and theft that can be put into this. You can take them out, obviously, but yeah, it's a very realistic type of game, obviously with vampires and supernatural in it. So yeah, there's a page on storytelling. It tells you how to do everything. Yeah, it's about practically very. I'll be honest, I don't like running Sabbat campaigns because I find them to be very Call of Cthulhu-esque, as in create 6 characters before you play, because it's just basically, no, as Bishop says, you're now a war party, go and cause some trouble, and they'll go cause some trouble, and they'll get killed. But yeah, there's probably other ways of doing that. I mean, I just tend to stay away from the Sabbat stuff because I find it too dark for me, too grindy. I prefer the camera stuff with just the storytelling and the acting and the proper role playing. Book and North, which is like the Kindred, they're called Kindred this, by the way, and Dark Ages are called Canaanites. Yeah, stuff like the Camarilla. Yeah, I mean, that's the old school stuff. Let's go on to the new stuff. The new edition, which came out because they've just brought out the video game Bloodlines 2, so they brought out a lot has changed in this. They've changed the rules for feeding, which I like. They've also changed the blood system again, which I like. Instead of it just being like an energy bar, there's actually different stages of feeding, which does different things. There's no difficulty setting, it's just you succeed or you fail on the dice roll. Story-wise, the Sabbat are dead. The Sabbat have been wiped out. There's no Sabbat. There's just the Anarchs and the Camarilla. But you've got the Inquisition. Now, the Inquisition are mortals with powers of their own. In some cases, they have powers of their own. In some cases, they just wield lots of faith. In some cases, they're just nutters with shotguns trying to kill you. So a lot of that's changed. Because there's no Sabbat, there's obviously no like Zimitzi in this or La Zombra. I think they've got La Zombra in the Camarilla book. I haven't got it. I'll have to check that myself. But yeah, I ran a couple of games of this. I played a couple of games of this. It's good. There's some improvements and there's some which aren't really much of an improvement as much as a disimprovement, if that makes sense. It depends. Story wise, I prefer the older stuff as opposed to this one. Story wise, but rules wise, I do prefer the new book. Now, I know artwork isn't really a big thing, however, it does sort of sell books, and I'm going to say this artwork is alright, personally. Let's see if I can find something that would work. Let's see if it looks fine. I can't talk about this game enough, actually. It's brilliant. See, because they use like photos and stuff, really. There's some like drawings, but then meh. These files, whereas if you take a look at the original Vampire the Masquerade, proper black and white drawings, they just look so much better. I prefer the artwork in this. I think the artwork in this is beautiful and it's much better. But yeah, I can't say enough. So, because they don't even put statistics for weapons in this because there's no point having weapons. It's more, like I said, well, but there's statistics for weapons, but it's just not like prices or anything like that because there's no prices in the Dark Ages because obviously people carried swords and stuff like that. But in this, because there's no point because guns don't do anything. And yeah. But my God, yeah. Gives you all the enemies in this. This is one thing I prefer to do because I love the White Wolf and all the Darkness stuff. So you have stats for like werewolves and hunters and witches and warlocks and stuff. I actually prefer to have the core rulebook myself. So, for example, if I am running a Chronicle and they are vampire hunters in it, I will actually create hunter characters using Hunt Director, which is another White Wolf book. This we play hunters, but it'll come to that later. And I'll use that to create my hunter characters, as opposed to what's in the book, because I prefer to add a bit more realism to it. But that's just me. If you haven't got time and you're just trying to create a vampire chronicle, then yeah, everything in here is ideal. It's got everything you need. There's also different paths as well. You don't have to do humanity. You can take different paths, like the hierarchy, the path of sin or path of the bones, blah blah blah. Each has their own sins and stuff like that. And to also help flesh out your characters, I believe this is the first book that actually started doing this, and others have copied it. Is you've got through merits and flaws to really add some oomph to your character. So, for example, acute senses, ambidextrous, you can be lame, monstrous, common sense, short fuse, territorial, or you can have the supernatural stuff as well. So you have magic resistance. So Tremere are really going to hate you. But then you've got stuff like repulsed by garlic, repelled by crosses, can't cross running water. These are actual flaws that you can take. They don't actually affect the vampire, but they can actually have some mindset. There's even one called Dark Fate, which is like a predetermined final death or something really, really bad's going to happen to your character, and it's again something you work out with the storyteller to put into your chronicle. Yeah, so millions of stuff. I'm just so excited to talk about this. There are just like a plethora of ways to create a story and to play a vampire. Try it. That's all I can say is try it. If you enjoy it, get the books, play it. Don't be dismayed due to the fact there's a lot more role playing than hitting things with a stick. There's a lot more role playing in this. Do not be determined by that. I can't promote it enough. I've been playing this for 17. I've been playing and running Vampire and other White Wolf games for like 17 years, and I've not stopped having fun. I'll continue to do it. In fact, I'm running a Dark Ages game with my friends right now during this epidemic, because it's just a terrific game. I love running it. I even love playing it. Because usually I prefer to play a game than run it, but in this case, it's the opposite way around. I just love to run it and just tell a story of witches, warlocks, werewolves, and how characters just act and play their characters and just go ham. It's just, I really can't promote it enough. So all I'm going to say is try it. Either rent a copy, borrow it from a friend, whatever you can do. Promote it in your gaming club. Get a copy if you can get one. Even if you can just like borrow a copy from someone, just do it and run it, play it, get into it. It's a terrific game. Again, don't be dismayed by the fact that it's more roleplay heavy than it is hack and slashing. Yeah, just I can't say enough. Try it. That's it. Get it. If it's Dark Ages, Masquerade, or a new version of Vampire the Masquerade, it doesn't matter. Just try it for a month. Just try it for a month or two. Create a small chronicle, and just play it. That's all I'm gonna say. Play it. You can't go wrong with it. It is a terrific game. It is so much fun, and it's just, it's good to just run around the nights, get into the world of darkness, act it out, play it, yeah, I can't promote it enough. I really can't. So, my friends, we have covered Vampire from the World of Darkness, and we have delved into the World of Darkness. However, we've only scratched the surface. Stay safe. Happy Halloween.